Pontius Pilate is a name that you will often come across in the accounts of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ in the Bible. He was the fifth governor of the Roman province of Judea and served under Emperor Tiberius from 26 AD to 36 AD. Pontius Pilate played a crucial role in biblical events mentioned in the New Testament. The mystifying decision of Pontius Pilate, where he permitted the Jews to choose the release of Barabbas, a notorious criminal in Judea, instead of Jesus, whom he knew to be falsely accused, left an indelible mark on his legacy, shrouded in a mystery that remains elusive to unravel. Despite his wife dreaming about Jesus the night before and advising him not to get involved with him, Pilate ended up handing Christ over to be crucified. After the people chose Barabbas, Pilate made the gesture of washing his hands, indicating that he had nothing to do with the unjust decision. However, this act did not save him from his fate. For that reason, in today's video, we will discuss the life and tragic death of Pontius Pilate, who he was, how he rose to power, why he washed his hands and allowed Jesus to be crucified, and what were the tragic consequences of the wrong choices he made. Please stay with me until the end, and you will be surprised by the ending of his story. But first, do me a little favor by hitting the like button to support the page and also follow us. Let's set the ball rolling. To get a broader understanding of this man, let's look at it in this way. The Roman Empire conquered and occupied the region of Judea in 63 BCE, bringing it under Roman rule. This occupation was resented by many Jews who opposed foreign domination and yearned for political independence. The Romans and the Jews had distinct cultural and religious practices. The Romans were polytheistic, worshipping a pantheon of gods, while the Jews were monotheistic, believing in one God. This cultural and religious divide led to clashes in beliefs and practices. The Roman Empire imposed heavy taxes on its provinces, including Judea, to fund its vast military and administrative expenses. The burden of taxation, along with other tributes, caused discontent among the Jewish population. Roman governors and prefects, such as Pontius Pilate, were appointed to oversee the provinces. Their authority included maintaining order, collecting taxes, and ensuring loyalty to the Roman Empire. The manner in which these officials exercised their power sometimes led to conflict with the local population. The Romans sometimes showed cultural insensitivity to Jewish religious practices. For example, the attempts to install Roman emblems or statues in Jerusalem, which conflicted with Jewish religious beliefs against graven images, provoking outrage and protests. There were sporadic uprisings and resistance movements among the Jewish population against Roman rule. Groups like the Zealots sought to resist Roman authority through armed rebellions, contributed to an atmosphere of tension and unrest. The religious zeal of the Jews played a significant role, as they believed in a special covenant with God and resented any foreign interference in their religious affairs. The Romans, in turn, often perceived Jewish religious practices as peculiar and were suspicious of potential rebellious sentiments. This led to a series of tensions in the region where Pontius Pilate oversaw, therefore putting him under pressure in his governance. The early life of Pontius Pilate is not extensively documented, and historical records provide limited information about his background. What is known comes from brief references in historical texts and the accounts of the New Testament in the Bible. Pontius Pilate was born around the year 26 BCE, and he came from a family that belonged to the Roman equestrian order, a social class below the senatorial class, but still considered part of the Roman elite. The exact place of his birth is uncertain, but historical records suggest he was likely born in central Italy. Pilate's family background and early upbringing are not well documented, and there is little information about his education or early career. He rose to prominence through his association with influential figures in Roman politics, leading to his appointment to key positions within the Roman Empire. Pilate's entry into public service is often attributed to his connections and relationships with influential individuals in Rome. It was not uncommon for individuals from the equestrian class to secure positions within the Roman administration through familial or political connections. Pilate, his career in public service progressed, and he eventually became the prefect governor of the Roman province of Judea. a position he held from approximately 26 to 36. Pilate shared limited civil and religious power with the Jewish Sanhedrin, an assembly of either 23 or 71 elders. As the prefect of Judea, he was responsible for the overall civil administration of the province of Judea. This included enforcing Roman law, maintaining public order, and administering justice. Pilate had command over the Roman military forces stationed in Judea, allowing him to use military power to maintain order, suppress rebellions, and address any threats to Roman rule. Pilate oversaw the collection of taxes and tributes from the population of Judea. This was a crucial aspect of Roman governance, as the revenue generated from the provinces helped support the vast Roman Empire. Pilate served as the highest judicial authority in Judea. He had the power to preside over trials, pass judgments, and administer punishments. His decisions were expected to align with Roman law, and he had the power to inflict capital punishment. Yet in the case of Jesus, he didn't want to. Even in the Gospel of Luke, we could read the up and down on Jesus' judgment, where he will send the responsibility to God. And still Herod will bring it back to him. The Apostle Luke describes Pilate as a leader who didn't want to take responsibility for such an important decision in chapter 23. After finding no guilt in Jesus, he tried to pass the responsibility to Herod Antipas, a prince of Judea who had been responsible for ordering the beheading of the prophet John the Baptist 3 years earlier. When Herod returned the responsibility to Pilate, he handed it over to the Jewish people. In the Gospel of John, we see a more arrogant posture from Pilate, questioning Jesus when he claims to be the king, and mocking the Messiah when he declares he came into the world to testify to the truth. Now returning to the story, the Jewish religious leaders pressured Pilate to condemn Jesus, saying that he represented a threat to public order and Roman power. However, the real fear of those men was that Jesus Christ would incite a revolt among the Jews. In the book of John, it is stated that Pilate interrogated Christ, who stated that his kingdom was not of this world, and that he had come to proclaim the truth. Upon hearing that, Pontius Pilate considered Jesus innocent of the charges of rebellion against Rome and Caesar. Even though he found no guilt in Jesus, Pilate lacked the courage to stand firm against the Jews who wanted Jesus crucified. The situation between Jews and Romans was tense at that time. Pilate chose to please the people rather than go against what he believed to be right. As part of a tradition during Passover, Pilate offered to release a prisoner. Pilate proposed to release Jesus, but the crowd asked for the release of Barabbas, a convicted criminal, instead of Christ. Despite his wife Claudia warning him about the dream she had concerning Jesus, Pilate proceeded with the decision. The Bible recounts that while sitting in the judgment seat, Pilate's wife sent him a message, urging him not to have anything to do with the innocent man, as she had suffered greatly in a dream because of him. However, Pilate, pressured by the population and fearing a major popular revolt, Pilate publicly washed his hands, symbolizing that he had nothing to do with that decision. He declared that the responsibility would fall on the people and the religious leaders. Subsequently, Jesus was crucified on Golgotha outside Jerusalem. Pontius Pilate's participation in the biblical narrative ended there, but his life as the leader of the Roman Empire in Judea continued. Even after meeting Christ, Pilate remained the same wicked man. Two historical accounts show that 3 years after Jesus' death, Pilate took brutal action, ordering the arrest and slaughter of some Galilean pilgrims who were making sacrifices in the temple. Pilate reportedly ordered the slaughter of a group of armed Samaritans at a village called Tirathana. These Samaritans hoped to find artifacts believed to have been buried there by Moses. The leader of this movement may have been Dositheos, a Messiah-like figure among the Samaritans active around that time. The Samaritans, claiming not to have been armed, filed a complaint with Lucius Vitellius the Elder, the governor of Syria from 35 to 39 AD. This complaint led to Pilate's recall to Rome to face judgment by Tiberius. However, Tiberius had died before Pilate's arrival, placing the date of Pilate's removal as governor around 37 AD, following Tiberius' death. Pilate's fate was set to be determined by the new emperor, Caligula, one of the most notorious leaders of ancient Rome. it is unclear whether any formal hearing took place, as new emperors often dismissed outstanding legal matters from previous reigns. The only certain outcome was that Pilate was not reinstated as the governor of Judea. The reasons for this are debated, whether the hearing went badly or Pilate chose not to return. Yet it was certain that Pilate was sentenced to exile in the region of Gaul, which is now modern-day France. The early church historian Eusebius, writing in the early 4th century, claimed that tradition relates Pontius Pilate committed suicide afterwards due to disgrace. Eusebius, the early Christian historian, provided an account of Pontius Pilate's death in his work Church History, 271. According to Eusebius, this information is derived from tradition, and he does not offer explicit details or sources. Josephus, in the 18th book of the Antiquities of the Jews, states that Herod Agrippa, made king by Claudius, killed James, the brother of John, with a sword, and that Peter, having first been imprisoned, was later crucified, and says that it is reported in many historical works that he, Pilate, fell into such calamities that he was forced to become his own murderer and executioner. In this passage, Eusebius attributes the information about Pilate's suicide to many historical works. However, he does not specify which works or provide direct references to corroborate this claim. The use of the term reported suggests that Eusebius is relaying information that was part of the broader tradition circulating at the time, rather than relying on specific documented evidence. Scholars have approached Eusebius' account with caution due to the lack of independent corroboration, and the fact that Eusebius himself acknowledges the information as part of tradition. The narrative about Pilate's suicide may have served theological purposes, emphasizing divine retribution for his role in the crucifixion of Jesus rather than being grounded in concrete historical evidence. There has been some argument on this claim, though by early historians. Daniel Schwartz argues against dismissing Eusebius' claims lightly. Christian apologist Origen, writing around 248 AD, responded by suggesting that nothing bad happened to Pilate because the responsibility for Jesus' death lay with the Jews, not Pilate. Pilate's supposed suicide is not mentioned in the works of Josephus, Philo, or Tacitus. Historian Paul Meyer suggests that Pilate's fate likely involved retiring as a government official and pensioned Roman ex-magistrate, rather than meeting a more disastrous end. Joan Taylor notes that Philo discussed Pilate as though he were already dead in the embassy to Gaius, written a few years after Pilate's tenure as governor. In conclusion, the fate of Pontius Pilate remains shrouded in uncertainty and subject to historical interpretation. The accounts provided by early historians such as Eusebius and Josephus raise questions about the veracity of the details surrounding Pilate's life and death. The debate among historians and scholars continues as they grapple with the challenge of piecing together the historical puzzle surrounding the death of Pontius Pilate. Thank you for watching. God bless you. Amen.